crime, charming, Stephen Dunbar-Johnson, who is the president of the International President of the New York Times. Sorry, I got that wrong. Stephen and I have been co-moderating these debates for quite a few years, and it's a real delight to do this again with you, Stephen, and to have the New York Times as media partner of this event.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you.
Now, before I begin, I'd like to make sure our juries have found their seat, or they have found their seat. And there's a few seats at the front, so if anyone wants to take their seat, please join us. Now, before beginning, I'd just like to thank again the Bellwether Group for having us and the beautiful Nature and Climate House for the first South by Southwest Festival in London. This is the second debate that we have had this week. And we are very grateful for your trust in allowing us to run these debates in your house. Our first debate on Tuesday was about language, narrative, and mindset of the climate emergency. And what our speakers debated is whether the crisis messaging has worked or whether it has in fact backfired since the climate emergency was declared in 2019.
I'm sorry I missed that one. It sounds fascinating.
It was fascinating, actually, Stephen, and there was a lot of passion in the room. But today is going to be a little bit trickier.
Yes, because today we're going to be debating what I think is the question. It's a question right now, and it must be addressed.
Indeed. And first and foremost, let me just make sure that we are all clear as to what we are not debating, so that we are all on the same page. We are not debating whether the green transition should or shouldn't happen. Obviously, we all agree that it should. What we are trying to get at is whether we can realistically and successfully invest our way to a green future, considering our current economic system and the state of the climate emergency. Or do we need new financial tools and financial system, or even new system altogether to achieve that transition? And if so, what does it look like?
And Sophie, if I may, if I can...
Please go ahead.
If you believe what you read, which is a big question today, to believe what you read, about the green transition, it's hard to think that this is actually a debate this evening. The UN estimates that globally the green economy could be worth $10.3 trillion by 2030. $10.3 trillion by 2030. And the IEA says it could be as much as 100 trillion by 2050. These are humongous numbers, but it's not just about the numbers, Sophie, I think.
No, indeed, all these estimates come with lots of contingencies. If policy incentives are in place, if technology advances, if the transition happens at pace in the global north and in the global south. So the topic can get very technical and calls for deep expertise, which luckily is very well represented today by brilliant speakers and jury members.
And the motion itself also needs unpacking. What do we mean, for example, by the word transition? How do we account for the differences between investments in adaptation, mitigation, and resilience? And when we speak of financial viability, what timescale are we talking about? And viable for whom exactly?
Yes, and that's lots to think about. And again, our debaters will help us with that.
I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to get very lost for one.
I might well too. Now, before we get into the rules of the game, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the format of this debate is very intentional. It's going to feel different from your usual panel. There's a for side, which I will represent, and an against side, which Stephen will represent.
They probably have drawn that conclusion already. This is a debate, so...
Sure. I just want to make sure that everyone is clear. As I was saying, so there are two sides, but also we have a very esteemed group panel of jury members that are sitting here at the front. Emma, you might want to join your fellow jury members. Emma Howard-Boyd, Bernice Lee, Sue Reed, and Paul Dickinson. Please join me in welcoming them. And thank you, audience, because obviously we have you as well to count on, because your role in this debate is critical to the success of it. So, with no further ado, let's start by inviting our speakers to the stage. On the far side, I would like to invite Rhian Mary Thomas, Marisa Drew, and Fiona Howarth. Please join me in welcoming them on stage.
And on the against side, we have Kathy Boughman McLeod, Chaitanya Kumar, and Erinch Sahan. Please join us on stage.
Thank you for the clapping. Now, remember that this motion is really not meant as a statement of truth. It is a provocation, which we are debating today, which is also an invitation to disagree agreeably, so that critical nuances, but also new decision pathway can emerge. Which is why it's important to remember that our debaters are not necessarily agreeing from a position of personal opinion. They might have very well push or set their own belief aside for the sake of the debate, which takes courage, intellectual agility, eloquence, and I would even say empathy. So please don't hesitate. I would even encourage you to clap and whoop whenever the debaters make a good point, and really to lean into the theatrics of the moment. We have asked the same of our debaters, and they will need all the support they can get. You get it. Thank you, Bernice. And while we are all serious people, we do like a little bit of drama from time to time.
Well, you certainly do. I mean, I know that.
Charming. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Pleasure. Okay, listen up, everyone. These are the House rules. Please pay attention. Each debater will have 3 minutes of speaking time. Sophie and I will be watching the clock, so no hogging the mic. Please, and the timer is going to be right here, so keep an eye on it. You risk being cut off after your allotted time, so do keep an eye. And Sophie can be extremely tough on this. I'm much more soft, so she's the one to be. After you've all spoken, our very intimidating panel, which is sitting here, of jury members will share their thoughts. The jury, somewhat paradoxically, I admit, are asked not to choose a winning side, but rather to present a few challenges to the debaters. We want you to shine a light on what they liked, you, the jury, liked in their arguments, but also what they might have missed or failed to consider. So debaters, please take good notes of the remarks that they share. You will then have 2 minutes to confer amongst yourselves before selecting 1 or 2 members from your team to come back to the lectern for the final rebuttal, at which point the gloves will come off. No doubt total chaos will ensue.
I think, as usual, Stephen is slightly getting carried away. It is just a case of healthy competition and friendly fires.
Yes, thanks, Sophie. Let's not forget to disagree well. Each team will then have 1.5 minutes to drive their points home and to clinch their victory. Then the audience, those who have any doubt, that's you, will vote through the latest incredibly technologically advanced zero-carbon method that the New York Times have adopted called the clapometer. Now, this is very important. You must vote for the team that, in your view, argued the best. I repeat, argued the best. Not for the side you personally agree with. The aim is to reward the quality of argumentation, not the team that has best reflected your own opinion.
Stephen, I think we should speed up. We're ready to start, right?
Gosh, all right. She's tough. Yes, we're ready to start. But before we do, let's quickly test. I want to test the temperature of the room and perhaps test you, our wonderful audience's pre-existing biases. So, ready. If you think that, yes, the green transition is financially viable, please clap now. Okay. And if you think that it is not viable, please clap now. And if anyone's undecided, please wave. I can see, I'm blinded by lights, I can see 3 or 4. It's interesting. So I think we've set the scene. We'll have to see if the debaters are going to sway you. Are we ready?
I think we should begin. So you're going to take your mic, Stephen, so that we're going to depart from those podium. And we're going to let our first debaters come on stage. If we can have some sound on the mic. Hello, hello. Perfect. So, Rhian, Marie, Thomas, you come on the far side, and we have a fun fact for you, Rhian, Marie, is that, it's funny, I said, I'm sure Rhian, Marie must have trained as a boxer, and here she is. She used to train for boxing while she was a student, and she and I both hope that the debate won't come to that.
And on the against side, we have Erinch Sahan. Erinch is obsessed, apparently, with basketball, and he spent most of his teenage years trying to dunk. So perhaps you're going to have a slam dunk, I hope, this evening.
I'll try.
All right, let's make sure the clock is ready at 3 minutes. You can see it?
Yep.
Stay close to the mic. Ready
Okay.
to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, honourable judges and esteemed opponents, we stand firmly in support of the motion, yes, the green transition is financially viable. Indeed, not only is it viable, it is economically strategic, it is socially imperative, and it is already underway. Let's start by acknowledging a basic truth. The green transition, this isn't a hypothetical debating topic. It is happening now. $2.1 trillion was invested in green energy technologies last year, not as charity, but because this is smart economics and the market sees where the future lies. Renewable energy is already cheaper than fossil fuels in the majority of the world's markets. What we're witnessing is the collapse of an unsustainable, unviable, fossil-fueled status quo with its profits propped up by subsidies and the rise of a new green economic engine. But the financial viability of the green transition is not just about the gains we reap, it's also about the losses that we avoid. The upfront investments in clean energy, sustainable infrastructure, and low-carbon technologies are not costs to be feared or to be avoided. They're investments that shield us, that protect us from the catastrophic economic consequences of unchecked climate change, trillions in disaster damages, food system breakdowns, migration crises, and social unrest. Every fraction of a degree we prevent not only saves economies, but it saves lives. The World Bank warns that climate impacts could push a further 100 million people into poverty by 2030. And Swiss Re, a leading global reinsurer, estimates that climate change could shave up to 18% of global GDP by the mid-century if we fail to act. In what world is not investing in this prevention more viable? Certainly not this one, where it is the most vulnerable communities that are already the first to suffer from climate shocks, high energy bills, and polluted environments. A green transition with appropriate subsidies, with retraining, with local investment, with access to clean and resilient infrastructure doesn't deepen inequality, it reduces it. The real payoff of the green transition is not just in margins or in market cap, it's in resilience. It's in preserving lives, livelihoods, and communities. And that is the ultimate form of financial viability, one that ensures that our economies can continue at all. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Stay there, stay there. Thank you.
Right on time, perfectly timed. Can we reset the clock to 3 minutes, please? Whoever's managing the clock. There we go. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to remind all of us what we're debating here today. We're not debating if one day the transition could be or should be or might become viable. It's, is it viable today? That's what we're debating. That's the test that we've all set ourselves. That's the question that we need to unpack together. Now, it is very clear, it's abundantly clear, just from the mathematics, that there's a $6 trillion gap just for the energy transition alone. Annual gap, $6 trillion gap. So clearly, financial markets are looking at the transition and saying it's not financially viable. Today, the parameters that the financial market sets are telling us that, nope, it's not worth our investment, it's not worth our time. We see the broad economic case, but the individual investment case, the determinants of financial viability that the financial system sets are saying, no, we don't go ahead, we don't progress. Now, I also want to challenge our focus on the concept of financial viability, because what we are doing when we focus on financial viability is putting at the heart of the debate the necessity to please finance. That the transition can happen if it meets the ROI, the risk-adjusted ROI expectations of finance, the desire for finance to accumulate, the desire for venture capital to extract 10x, 20x, 30x returns, for private equity to have huge exits in 5, 6, 7 years, to have stock market quarter upon quarter inject money only where there is growth. These parameters are holding us back. Now, I want to remind you all of two images. The first is, you might have noticed a bulge in my pocket, and it's an apple. It's an apple because what the 4 team will have you believe is that there are some low-hanging fruit. That's true. There are some, and they're being picked, and we're running out of some of those low-hanging fruit. But if we are over-enthusiastic about the potential to reach out and grab that low-hanging fruit, then we undermine the need to change the system so we can pick the high-hanging fruit. Now, the second thing that I want you to remember, and I'm not doing something weird here, is the belt. Because financial markets have become a straitjacket. It's wrapped around business, it's wrapped around economic activity, it's wrapped around governments, it's wrapped around the private sector, and it's become a straitjacket on the transition itself. So we need to remind ourselves that something else is possible, a better future, but in order to do that, we need to get real. We need to not just focus on the enthusiasm for the low-hanging fruit, and we need to wiggle ourselves free of the straitjacket of financial viability and an economy that's in service to finance. Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
And the buttons.
I like the use of props. That's quite cool. So, Rhian, Mary, hopefully your trousers is still holding. So, Rhian, Mary, I think you said we can avoid catastrophe while generating economic returns, and the combination isn't just viable, it's mutually enhancing.
And actually, I think you made a pretty compelling case with your props that the 20th century financial, perhaps a Bretton Woods financial system that we become so reliant on, is unfit for the 21st century challenges that we have. I think that's a succinct way of saying what you, repeating, a synopsis of what you said. Okay.
Great. Next up on the 4th side, we have Fiona Howarth. Clap, clap, clap. Now, fun fact for Fiona. Fiona once captained the British rowing team at the age of 16, but one day fell in the water in front of live Scottish TV. And the broadcaster reminded viewers that with all water sport, there's always a chance of getting wet.
And we have Chaitanya, who I understand shared a ride on a underground train with Ed Miliband a few years ago now. It was in 2009. But that prompted the fuel for conversation during a podcast. So I think that's correct. Is that correct?
That's right.
Right. Okay.
Great. So I've now understood how the clock works. It starts at 3, then jump at 2, and then it clocks down. So it's all fine. So let's go back to 3, if we can. Thank you. Fiona, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. I would like to argue that not only is the green transition financially viable, in fact, this is the biggest financial opportunity that we have seen for decades, both for countries, companies, and individuals. In fact, over the previous decades, we have had smart innovators, engineers, working away to develop new technologies that can power our world on green energy. They have been working away and supported by clever policy mechanisms that have been working. We have now seen huge deployments of wind and solar, and also prices of things like batteries absolutely plummeting. In fact, today, wind and solar are about a third of the cost of new fossil fuel generation coming online, and it's absolutely a no-brainer that we should be bringing on this green energy into our network. In addition to that, if you take transport, for example, which is my special area, we have seen battery prices absolutely plummeting, and this is a magic year where we have been waiting for batteries to hit the magic $100 per megawatt hour mark, and that is going to make electric cars on price parity with their petrol and diesel counterparts. This is so exciting because we're going to have as good prices for electric vehicles, but also when you take into account running costs, in the UK, people can save £100 every month. They are saving money, they're saving energy, and they are also helping save our planet. It's a great opportunity for startups. If you take Octopus Energy Group, in fact, this is a business that started just 9 years ago and is already worth today $9 billion. This is the startup of the current day. This is the tech billion, like the tech unicorn, and there are many more to come. In fact, already it's creating jobs. There's 10,000 jobs already with this one unicorn, and as I said, this is such an early stage market, and there's many, many more to come. So long term, the marginal cost of electricity is going to continue to come down with renewables. It's going to be absolutely abundant and green for everyone to power their homes, jobs, and day-to-day lives. So this is our future. Don't get left behind. Don't think it's not financially viable. With the other technologies that might not be today's low-hanging fruit that we have been investing in for decades, we are investing in those now, and they will be coming ripe very soon.
Nice.
I'm rather worried that, Erinch, with you holding that apple, it's health and safety. You're going to lob that somewhere, but hang on to it. The floor is... Let's reset the clock. 3 minutes, please. Chaitanya, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to keep my belts on for the next 3 minutes, but let me start off, as I typically like to do for these sort of debates, with a couple of facts, which I think will set my arguments clearly. In 2024, only £1 in every 20 pounds of capital investment made by incumbent energy companies went into clean technologies. Just 1 in 20 pounds of capital investment. Fact number 2, 3 investment firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, are major shareholders in almost all of the S&P 500 companies, and they're also large shareholders in all the major oil and gas companies in the world. Fact number 3, in 2022, incumbent interests lobbied the EU Commission and Parliament, to ensure gas, natural gas, is classified as a green technology, just so more money can go into natural gas. In my book, natural gas isn't a green technology, but what I'm trying to talk about with those 3 examples really is to symbolize the fact that incumbent power and the political economy of the transition is still very much held by fossil fuel interests around the world. We may see some examples otherwise in a couple of countries here and there, but by and large, the stranglehold that fossil fuel interests and fossil fuel companies have on the political economy, on politics, is still very, very strong. And what's worse is the problem is getting bad, as we've seen, for example, with the big tech companies, especially Microsoft, which came in the news quite recently, which sacrificed its 2030 climate targets because it had to go big on AI servers and spending a lot of energy on powering these huge AI machines. So here's the deal. What we can all agree on, I hope, is the fact that we can't afford to stay still and not transition. But the problem we have, of course, is the cost of inaction and slow action is still considerably high. And what fossil fuel incumbents and fossil fuel powers are currently doing are holding us back, are not letting the transition happen as fast as possible. From the Bank of England to our pensions to our sovereign funds, we're still too leveraged on fossil fuels. This is not an accident. Incumbent powers wield considerable power over politics and, of course, shapes it in their favor. There are plenty of examples of how this happens, and if you look across the pond in the US, things are much more overt, much more visible in terms of how incumbent power shapes politics, but it's not too different in lots of other countries in the world. So let me ask a quick question of the audience here, and I'll close after that. How many of you are aware of how leveraged your pension funds are on fossil fuels? Very, very few. That gap between our values and where our money goes is the very reason why this transition isn't feasible and isn't viable under the current market system. I'll stop there.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. So, Fiona, well done. Tech optimist. Tech is drastically reducing the cost curve, making the transition both cheap and accessible.
And Chaitanya, you made, I think, a very powerful case that the green transition lacks the necessary political backing and financial incentives to break our addiction to fossil fuels.
Great. Final round. So, on the foresight, I'm delighted to welcome Marisa Drew. Marisa considers herself as an organic farmer of wine and olives and has got her very own farm in Africa. Lovely. I hope maybe the winning team and the moderators get invited there.
And on the for side, we have Kathy...
Against.
Sorry, on the against side.
You can be for. I'm all for that.
I apologize. On the against side, we have Kathy Boughman McLeod. Kathy won something called the Bexar County Livestock Show Championship for sheep. Her favorite part, apparently, is to shear the sheep. And she has developed muscles in strange places as a result of this. Again, allegedly, but we take your word for it.
There's a little bit of creative license on the muscle, but yes, I'll tell you about that later.
Wonderful. Actually, we're going to start on the for side.
Good.
Okay. For the final retort, you'll start on the against side. So if we can have the clock at 3 minutes again, please.
Okay, well, I had to say that thank you so very much to my last speaker, because I just rewrote my speech, because all the arguments that you made, I'm like, bring it on, because who did you refer to? You referred to industries of old, investment philosophies of old, economies of old. And what is the common factor there? Low growth, aging populations, struggling. If you shift toward the growth markets of the world, China, India, Indonesia, Middle East, these are the fastest growing economies in the world. They are made up of the youngest populations of the world, and what are they doing? Every single one of those economies is transitioning, and they are doubling down on the energy transition. Look at Saudi Arabia. It is an oil-dependent economy with the largest oil company in the world basically fueling its GDP. What is Saudi Arabia doing? It is spending billions, if not trillions, in diversifying its economy. What does that tell you? The energy transition is viable, and the old way is no longer going to be the case in the not-too-distant future. My second point, and those who are against the viability of the energy transition often point to the fact it's not affordable at the consumer level. Let me posit a scenario. Thank you for bringing up Africa to me. 1 year, Africa, powered by coal, dirty, you feel it in the air, you smell it in the air, intermittent, old technology, old infrastructure. The cost may on the surface appear cheap, but every time the power goes out on that aging old infrastructure, it costs people in terms of their economic viability. Can you run your companies? Can you operate in a sensible way? Is it working? Fast forward in 1 year, I come back to my beloved Africa, because I only go there about once a year. I look around and there are solar panels literally everywhere. And why is that? This is ostensibly a place that can't really afford the energy transition. And yet, I made a phone call because I was watching what was going on. In 3 weeks' time, I had solar panels on my house, so it was cheap to begin with, it was incredibly efficient, it was super fast, and guess what? My energy bill is now 1/20th of what it was annually before when I was running on good old fossil fuels. And the final point I'll make, if I can't appeal to your pocket and your common sense and your excitement about where the growth economies of the future are, is take a look at a company called Formula E. If I asked you a quick cocktail party fact of a 7-year-old company that no one ever heard of probably 2 years ago, and asked you how many active consumers are there and fans patronizing Formula E, just think about it for a moment. What might you say? The average person that I asked that cocktail party fact to would say maybe 5, maybe 10 million people. There are 500 million active Formula E fans today on a 7-year-old company. Why? Because all the investment, all the excitement, all the enthusiasm, all the intellectual capital is going in these next generation cars, and that's going to be the entertainment of the future. And if that power of the consumer wallet isn't driving it, I don't know what is.
Thank you, Marisa. Well done.
Kathy, I'm going to give you a little bit more. We're going to reset the clock. I'm going to give you an extra 15 seconds because you overran.
I couldn't help myself.
To be fair.
Fiona, stop 15 seconds before the end on the last one. 20 seconds, actually.
That's irrelevant. Could we reset the clock, please, for 3 minutes?
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
That excitement is contagious, Marisa. Excitement for a financial system we don't currently have. And when we look at the fact that we put 6% of the global economy into subsidies to the oil and gas industry every year, it's hard to see how those go together. And we have to talk about externalities that are absolutely free, while the shareholders of companies take home profit. Biodiversity is lost. Children are working in mines. We have sweatshops. We have methane and carbon pollution pumping out. It's free. And the shareholders take the money, and everyone else gets the short end of the stick. The market we have, not necessarily the market we wish to have, incentivizes pollution, devalues people, and overlooks protection. And I hear us talking in the world we all work in about words that are fancy and jargony, externalities and biodiversity and subsidies. These are sanitized words for what this economy is doing to people. Most of these people are invisible. And the women my organization works with, informal women workers, low-income workers, there are 1 billion of them, and they are invisible. And the words we use to describe their experience with this economy is a urinary tract infection, a miscarriage, a rash, a blister, a headache, lost income. This economy is killing us. We cannot maintain these expectations of return and believe that there is a green future. That is a fantasy. Thank you.
Very succinct.
Well done. Well, Marisa invited us to look in the growth economies for those really exciting, scalable, investable solutions.
And Kathy, externalities remain completely unpriced, was the case by our markets, enabling high-polluting industries to thrive. Indeed, can I just say that you're going to scorn this, but the fossil fuel industry, subsidies to fossil fuel industries exceed the global education budget. Just think about that for a second. I'll leave it there.
No comment. It's undeniable. So now we're going to shift gear and invite our jury members to come to the stage. If someone could provide a mic to the jury members, that would be great. And each jury members will have up to 2.5 minutes of speaking time each. You don't have to use them all. And as Stephen said, you are going to provide a balanced perspective on what you heard, how good the debaters were in revealing those tensions, and you're going to challenge them in a friendly way as well for the final rebuttal. So please join us on stage, and whoever wants to start, pick up the mic. Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Nobody wants to start. I want to start.
Wonderful.
Is there a clock? Yeah? 2.5 minutes? Here we go. Thank you for that fantastic and very exciting roundup. Rhian, you said it's happening now, which is great, and you said the collapse of fossil fuels. Well, Trump? No, don't think so. Good challenge on why not invest in this. I like the idea that you gave it to them, but I think I would have liked to hear a bit more about policy. Erinch, I liked your Erinch, sorry, forgive me, Erinch. I liked your mentioning of parameters, thought that was very good. The idea that parameters are holding us back, though, is a bit vague, I would have said. Markets as a straitjacket, that's a good concept, I like that very much. But I would have liked to hear a bit more about policy.
Paul, can you keep the mic close to your chin?
Thank you. Fiona. Biggest opportunity, you had great energy for that. By the way, I think your company's really cool. Sorry, a bit off script. And saving money, that's a great point, but I think it could be made sharper about that. 10,000 jobs from one unicorn. I mean, like, duh. Why you know, like climate change billionaires, bring them on. But I would have liked to hear a bit more about policy. Okay. Now,
there's a theme emerging here.
Chaitanya, a powerful critique of investment. I thought that was very well put. Natural gas, however, I never liked that phrase. What is natural about it? Can anyone tell me what's natural about natural gas? Like drilling holes in the ocean floor. But I know it's called that for a reason, because it's not made out of crushed coal, but we've got to find a better way of not like giving them a little nod every time. The stranglehold on politics is exactly right. But I would have liked to hear even more about policy, if possible. Now, Marisa, industries of old, low growth, that's good imagery, I think. Congratulations on that. Indonesia, however, is a disaster. The grid is a mechanism for stopping renewable energy, and it's controlled by the coal industry. And so one has to kind of pick one's targets. I think there's wills there, but the ability of the coal industry to enslave the government of 280 million people is not to be underestimated. But your guttural comments about coal, in like it's sort of choking and everything, were really, really good. I appreciated that. But I would have liked to hear a little bit more about policy, if that was possible. And then, Kathy, your subsidies for oil and gas, that's exactly right. Although it is complex to sort of, does that include externality costs? Externality? You didn't offer so much picture of a plan, in a way. So that was something that could have been done perhaps a bit more. And biodiversity, I felt, was a little bit sanitized. It is our polite way of saying less mass extinction. So once again, it's a bit like natural gas. I've got a problem with biodiversity. You were right. You were making the point, but the word. Actually, this is a compliment rather than a criticism. A compliment. Thank you for picking up biodiversity. The very last word is, can anyone guess altogether? Would have liked to hear a bit more about policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Bernice, you are next.
Thank you.
2 minutes. 2 minutes and a bit.
No, I'll be shorter than that. I think that the side on my right
the faux side
provided a very compelling case for why markets worked already and will continue to work because prices are down, technologies exist, and that there is indeed considerable rollout in big parts of the world. On the other side, I think there's also a very compelling argument from the against side about why actually it's not whether it's financially viable, is it? It's whether it's politically viable. And all the arguments that you guys made are about why the political economy do not line up to make it viable. So on both sides, I'd like to hear more about how you think that despite the fact that markets work, but obviously there are many naysayers on that side, you will answer some of their questions in terms of how you will help them figure out how to conquer the political economy challenges, including answering the questions that you yourself raised, which I think I want to hear more about. How do you answer questions about inequality, about things that voters really care about every day, today, and not just tomorrow? On your side, however, I do think that it's very easy to knock things down. So I would rather have your job in some ways to knock things down. I would like to hear more from you in terms of if it's not financially viable, what are the other options? Just because you knock it down doesn't mean that you should get away with it. I would like to hear more. If that's the case, what does that mean from your perspective? Thank you.
Great job. Thank you, Bernice. Really good. What beyond the apple will you bring in your solutions, yeah? Sue, yours.
I left all my fruit at home, sorry. So I've taken a structurally slightly different approach to my feedback. On the for team, I thought you made a very eloquent, compelling case in terms of the economic imperative, the social imperative that so often is overlooked, the costs of inaction, very beautifully laid out, jobs and so on, the energy that you brought, including talking about young and emerging economies making this transition, so the excitement about the potential of the transition. that underpin so much of the change that's happening right now. Fantastic on that. There was one area that I thought was maybe a little bit overstated that then, to my mind, could undercut the credibility of the case, and that's on the collapse of the fossil fuel sector. When you see signs like Mark Carney off now looking to expand oil and gas in Canada after being the iconic one who kicked off the TCFD and so on, the Saudis example and so on, I felt like were a little bit overstated. The clear-eyed look is so crucial. And that gets at, in part, the last point that I would make, that the gaps. I felt like there wasn't enough, and you don't have much time, but unpacking the massive gap in climate solutions investment in the Global South in particular, accessibility for people across the socioeconomic spectrum, and how on earth, and good luck to you in dealing with this in the rest of the debate, dealing with the narrative that has been lost in the populist backlash against the transition. So that's your challenge. And the against side, again, I thought you had a very big challenge here, and I think you did a fantastic job exactly underscoring the massive clean energy investment gap, green investment gap, the entrenched incumbents, and the stasis that really is so formidable in terms of busting through that with these systems that have been set up and entrenched with certain powers and incumbent industries in play. At the same time, you've underscored the need for systems change to break past that, but just pointing to the failures, to the inertia, to the fact that this isn't moving as fast as it needs to be in all corners of the world as it needs to be, there's an imperative to lay out what is the high-level prescription for breaking through that. Just pointing to the failures and the systemic problems and so on is what the entrenched incumbents do. So the challenge to you in your closing remarks and further advocacy is to lay out what's the high-level prescription for how we change this, what needs to be done. Thanks.
Great, well done, Sue. Wonderful. Very good jury members, I have to say. Emma.
Wonderful. Well, I loved on the foresight the enthusiasm for how far we have got. But I think in every single case, you overdid it and perhaps have only really recently realized the importance of weaving in people and the adaptation agenda. I think you need to do more work on that. It's great that you talked about people in Africa and other parts of the world, but really start thinking about those costs of inaction and how we need to do our investments differently because, and I'd include myself in this, for far too long we focused on narrow sectors, energy, a little bit of transport, great to hear that, but not the whole economy and what needs to change to allow people to have different lives and livelihoods living and benefiting financially from a healthy planet. I loved the use of props. I'm surprised there weren't more in the panel because I know that Kathy is another big user of props to try and explain some of the ongoing issues that we're facing
Usually
on
sheep.
This agenda. Maybe that's we can rustle out one for the final comments. I think it's really important to put people at the heart of this, and I think that came strongly that the financial transition and making it viable needs to work for everybody. But again, like others, really keen in the final comments that you can bring it to life with more solutions. And I know they exist. I know there's some amazing insurance products that some of you are working on. Bring that to the fore and let's convince, it's something about bringing the two sides together that will make what we all want to happen. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, jury members. You've done a wonderful job. Now, debaters, you're going to have 2 minutes to huddle up and think about your final arguments. Audience, imagine you had to come back on stage and come for a final rebuttal. So speak among yourselves as well and reflect on what you heard and what you might come back to the stage with if you were in their seats. So 2 minutes.
Sophie is signaling time. Time.
Final seconds.
Okay, everyone, this is it. The final argument, the 11th hour. Are we ready? Have you chosen your various, the champions of each team? Okay. Excellent.
Belt and apples already?
Apples, belt and apples are ready. No. What, in terms of how much time you have?
No, as in, can I bring my colleagues?
Yeah,
You can do that. Yes, you can do
absolutely
that.
bring your
You can do that.
colleagues.
Yeah, if you
fellow.
can choreograph that well, good luck to you, but that's good. Yes, you can do that.
Shall we start with the against team for change?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. So the against team, why don't you kick off? And are we setting the time? You have 2 minutes.
Oh,
Go.
wait,
Good.
okay.
Wait. Can you go back? Go back to reset the clock, please. Okay. You ready? Reset. Go.
So an alternative is possible, and it already exists. This is an alternative where the financial sector isn't there to serve itself, isn't there to extract maximum returns, to accumulate capital as the central pillar, as the straitjacket across our economy, but one that has patient capital, tolerates low returns, takes higher risks, and prioritizes the transition. We have alternative banks, like Alternative Bank Switzerland, like Triodos Bank. We have mutuals, credit unions that are capable of taking low return, high risk, but high ecological impact decisions, driving energy transitions. We have alternative funds emerging, like Citizen Fund. We have different kinds of impact instruments and even private equity funds that are enabling community ownership, employee ownership models that are transforming our economy. The alternative economy is alive, one that can pick the high-hanging fruit and one that does not wear the straitjacket of maximizing returns to capital. I'm going to call in my colleagues.
Thank you. Paul really wanted policy ideas, so I've got one here. The policy idea is simple. Why not make fossil fuel companies, the clear incumbent powers, pay the full price of the carbon emissions that they emit? Right now, they pay maybe a tenth of the real cost of carbon on society that we all bear, that fossil fuel companies don't pay that cost at all. Make them pay, and suddenly they'll start vanishing from our economies.
You want policy? Here's what we need, democracy. You want policy, we need democracy. And with women consisting of less than 2% of fund managers and venture capital and private equity, we need women financial leaders, and we will get a different result. Thirdly, the future of finance is brown, and the future of finance is female. Thank you.
Excellent. Perfectly timed. Well done.
Marisa, are you sure you don't want your friends alongside with
Do you know what? The beautiful thing is you made the argument for us, because what you are saying is the future of the transition is viable. This is exactly the work I do every single day, voluntary carbon markets, putting a price on carbon, stopping fossil fuel subsidies. The work I'm doing in adaptation, mind you, is actually, we put a case out there that you get a 12 times return in investing in adaptation and resilience. This is at today's 1.5 ambition on degrees, a 12 times return on the capital invested in the form of disaster avoided if you do it today. If you wait 10 years, it grows exponentially, that cost of disaster. If it's a 2-degree scenario, or 2.5 degrees, heaven forbid, which is where we're headed, exponentially even greater. So I think we're actually wildly all in agreement that the green transition is financially viable if you frame it in the right way. And we would posit to you asked for policy. When policy works, it can drive extraordinary outcomes. We'll turn back to China for a second. China stated there will be no more petrol cars in our country, the biggest economy in the world, and the latest prediction is in 2075, it will become even the biggest economy in the world. Smart money is investing in the green transition. Without those petrol cars, guess what's happened? Hundreds of billions have gone into investing in electric vehicles. Guess what that created? an electric vehicle car, which is now being shipped out of China to this country at half the cost, same car, half the cost as Tesla. That is because policy is working. Guess what else is going on? That same country is investing in battery technology that in 2 years will be able to go 1,000 miles and be charged in less than 3 minutes. Game changer for the industry. That's policy when it works, and we believe that's financially viable, and those are the right incentives. And then speaking finally on incentives, I think you were making the argument that we should sort of not believe that the green transition is financially viable because there are fossil fuel subsidies in place. I would make the argument that subsidies tell you already that there's a broken system. So subsidies, all they're doing is protecting a broken market. So what we're saying is if subsidies are redirected toward, wouldn't need to prop up the market. That's what viability is in financial systems. Money follows where good, smart returns are, and returns aren't in protecting industries of the past, they're investing in the industries of the future. Thank you very much.
Well done.
What a
Juries,
great debate.
have they responded to your challenge? I'm sure in part. So well done, well done. Debaters, now audience, it's your turn. The moment of truth, remember, keep your own opinion aside for the moment, and really you are asked to vote for the side that you think has been most compelling in arguing their side. All right? We all clear? This is the for side, and this is the against side, okay? So, now, if you think that the for side convinced you was the most compelling, vote now.
Interesting. For those of you that think the against team won you over, please clap now. I'm not sure.
I'm glad you say so. I
not
agree.
sure.
I was going to say, is he going to declare a winner?
No,
Absolutely
I'm
not.
no.
Okay, so we'll have to start again.
That was pathetic.
Okay.
Come on.
So
More conviction, please, from the audience.
Just try to avoid as much double clapping as possible. You know, I know we want to celebrate at the end all the debaters, but at this stage you have to pick a side. All right. So I start again. If you think that the for side won you over, vote now.
And for the against team, please clap now.
All right. What do we think?
It's such a complex issue that it's a draw. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's. I am the nice guy, but I will say I do actually think it's a draw from that. So we could have a playoff, which I don't think we have time to do.
No.
But I think what you did is encapsulate the complexity of the arguments in these subjects. As I said at the top, this is a subject that we must grapple with. I think the money is there. Do we have the political solutions to drive that? We do have instruments to drive it. But the reality is there's too much of the narrative is about the cost of the transition, not about the cost of not transitioning and the opportunities. One of the reasons why the New York Times is delighted to associate with Kite Insights and the Debatable team is for this very format, the art of disagreeing well, the art of listening well, the art of holding two truths in your head and grappling with them. And these are things that are unfortunately increasingly rare, but we are very keen to continue this initiative with Kite and Debatable to drive these sort of discussions. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I'd like to thank our jury members, who you were excellent, very pithy, and of course our wonderful debaters.
Yeah, I'd like to say, I think This debate nearly rivaled the passion of the culture debate, and we had a filmmaker, no, we had an actor and a rapper, so you've done really well considering the nature of the topic. So please, again, I also want to thank the Bellwether Group again for their trust and the wonderful hosting in the Nature and Climate House, and thank you, the audience, for being such good